So we all know that trope where there's some random group, monsters, fairy tale characters, whatever, and suddenly they're in high school or whatever. Well, we're doing that today with historical fiction characters. Or we were gonna do that until I accidentally just turned them into the Scooby Gang again. So we're actually just turning historical fiction characters into the Scooby Gang. And if this gets probably even the smallest amount of attention, I will keep going and make side characters. They are also all based off 70s theme, because that was an accident in the Scooby-Doo, in accidentally making them Scooby-Doo, but they are, 70s theme, high school historical. First up on the agenda is Sherlock Holmes, which I have not actually read the book for. I have just watched the BBC Sherlock show, and I haven't actually finished it either, but I'll get around to it. I'd like to read the book, though it's not on my top priorities of books to read, though, so it probably would take quite a while for me to. Also, while during this, I may have forgotten that Sherlock was British. I don't know how I managed to forget that, but in this version he's Aussie now because of my mistake. Maybe at least it'll make him a little bit more unique in all the many Sherlocks that already exist. I imagine, he's not exactly the social butterfly, popular type. This is, true for any adaptation of Sherlock, I guess. Before joining the group that we see today, he had one friend Watson, of course, but he also had one fiend. He probably made way more enemies, but one that we're focusing on, which is Lupin, who he is currently investigating, despite having joined forces in their little historical fiction character Scooby Gang. I imagine they're quite silly together. Lupin is the ADHD versus Sherlock's autism. The battle of the neurospicy, one might say. Anyway, I think he came together pretty well. I think he reminds me of the Beatles. Not that I'm a Beatles expert, because I googled what the Beatles look like, and my first thought was, wow, the Beatles don't look like what I thought the Beatles looked like, so I'm not a great judge at that. Well, anyway, there is Sherlock.
So here is Arsène Lupin from the book The Arrest of Arsène Lupin, written in 1905 by Maurice Leblanc. Less people seem to know about the Arsène Lupin than a lot of these other characters. Good luck finding someone who doesn't know who Sherlock is, or doesn't know who Dracula is. But apparently not actually that many people, or comparatively, not as many people know about Lupin. But I think, everyone knows at least one of the adaptations. Because I think the reason why is because a lot of people adapt Lupin, but they don't use the same name. The idea of the gentleman thief has persisted, but not necessarily the name of Lupin has quite as much. It's still crazy popular, but comparatively. I think Persona 5 is based off, the character of the gentleman thief has some inspiration from Lupin. So here he is here. He's a bit inspired by, the song Dancing Through Life from Wicked, especially with this, holding on to the street light, and, that thoughtful look as he contemplates. He's quite sociable, but a bit, quite shallow as well, in that sort of way. I imagine, he has his rivalry with Sherlock, where he's always toying with him, and they both have massive egos. I am so glad. I would never, like, these are people I would not want to meet in real life because I could not handle their egos. I think they'd explode the room being in the same. They actually were in, there was Arsene Lupin versus either Sherlock Holmes or Sherlock Sholmes. I think it's actually Sherlock Sholmes in this one. You know, maybe that can be Lupin's nickname for Sherlock, just to mess with him. According to a website I found, he studied law, medicine, acting, jiu-jitsu, and etc. So in school, he would be like the kind of person who's good at everything. So again, I'd hate him even more. How dare he? You know, he'd probably pretend that he'd never tried and he's just naturally perfect and gifted, while also working his butt off the second anyone turns around. Like, you know, he does try quite hard as well. Yeah. He'd basically be the one who got Sherlock into being part of the Scooby gang, with Sherlock would be chasing him after inspecting one of his crimes, and then maybe they have to go and solve a bigger crime together and team up. The next one is Lucy. I can never remember her last name, but she's from Dracula. She is the first victim to get bitten and become a vampire. And oh my god, every single time there is a female vampire, the author says voluptuousness. Or voluptuous. But it's done so much, it's a motif, and it is just... Also, this early sketch looks very Legally Blonde and way too early 2000s. So, we're switching up to more 70s. Anyway, so, initially there are 3 men who all want to marry her. They absolutely adore her, and she can't decide. But then, after she gets turned into a vampire, they all kill her and say she has no soul. And yeah, the book is so interesting in how it does female representation, because initially it starts out like it seems there's going to be some positive aspects. Like, all the women, they start off having like quite a lot of autonomy in the story, and, you know, being able to take charge and are not just damsels in distress. And then it goes downhill for that aspect. It's really quite interesting how the book flip-flops. See, this is one of the books I have read, which is why I can talk about this. Though I think I actually never read the final chapter, but I know what happened, so, you know, I've implemented that idea of everyone loving Lucy into here quite a bit, and, like, used a lot of the popular girl archetypes. You know, she's quite nice, and she's quite lovable here. And she's very much, she'd be the social glue. Yeah, in terms of like how we've got mystery solvers, we've got both Sherlock and Mina being the mystery solvers. Lucy was a bit of a damsel in distress, but she did become one of the villains, and Lupin's probably causing all this shit. So, you know, we've got our villains. No, I feel bad calling her a villain. You know, villain-ish, and then we've got our detectives. And there is Lucy. I love her design so much.
Next is Mina, who I have very much taken in the bookworm direction, as in following the archetype of sort of the Velma from Scooby-Doo. In the book, she's the main mystery solver on just solving the mystery of Dracula and saving everyone. Heavily inspired by Velma with the sweater here, surrounded by books because she's the one who puts the diary entry together. And in this version, I imagine she's quite studious and definitely falls into like the smart girl archetype. I imagine she's also the most rational and clear thinking of the group, because Sherlock and Lupin's pride are too great for them, and Lucy was never the most rational character in the book. Mina was always like, she's quite smart. I feel like I've said that way too many times. I imagine she'd probably be quite close with Lucy, especially considering in the book how much she talks about wanting to marry her. Well, not quite. She talks about how it makes so much sense that all these men want to marry her because she's so gorgeous. And I'm starting to think she also wants to marry Lucy, so in this version she would definitely marry Lucy in a heartbeat. I imagine she'd get on with everyone the best. I feel like, I imagine maybe her and Lupin will be on the library while he's scheming and she's just like studying, and maybe has the water spray bottle whenever the evil comes up. And I imagine she'd have a bit of kindred spirit thing with Sherlock, with them both being mystery solvers. And there she is. I think she turned out quite well. Next is Jekyll Cat, because so there's this book called The Glass Scientist, which is an adaptation of Jekyll and Hyde, which is so good. I don't think I could ever compete, and I feel like if I did try and make a Jekyll Hyde character, I'd end up basing it off The Glass Scientist Jekyll way too much. So instead, it's based off my cat, or my sibling's cat, who is a ginger cat and is nasty. He doesn't change because he's not chugging potions. He's just a regular ginger cat, and this is just what they act like. They act all sweet, and then suddenly they pee on your bed. There's Jekyll Cat. Next, it's just the whole Scooby gang together. And one fun fact about Jekyll Cat is that no one knows where this cat came from. Basically, Sherlock thinks the cat is Lupin's, and Lupin thinks the cat is Mina's, and Mina thinks the cat is Lucy's, and Lucy thinks the cat is Sherlock's. So no one knows where on earth this cat came from. Also, the 70s theme with and there being 4 characters, they just accidentally became the Scooby Gang again. That was not intentional. After I realized I kind of had to add Jekyll Cat as like the animal sidekick, I just thought it worked well. This is sort of a character pose. Lucy's the only one who really cares about taking the photo here. She's just trying to get she's trying to help everyone have a good time and just have fun with other people. Lupin's messing with Sherlock. You can see my favorite part about this detail about this is Lupin pinching the watch. If you look behind Sherlock's shoulder, and Sherlock is inspecting, or he's trying to solve the mystery of whatever the hell Lupin's doing. Mina, I think she's distracted by something. I was imagining, like, she's the only one who's really all that rational, because, I think I already mentioned that. So she's, like, maybe there's, it's currently thundering, and actually really concerning, and they should probably be checking up on that instead of doing this. And so she's actually curious about that. Yeah. I think they'd probably all be in uni, because it works better than all the high school. There are way too many things with people set in high school, and I don't think it works that well, because maybe in for older settings it does work, because kids back then used to have a lot more freedom, but nowadays it doesn't. I don't know. A lot of it seems kind of impractical, but then I guess it's also, who cares? I guess because I'm in uni. I guess that's why it actually is in uni, because I'm in uni, so it just works better. I think it would be a story about them gradually becoming friends while solving the big mystery and realizing they don't hate each other, and I need to figure out what that big mystery is. I was considering putting Dracula in as like a teacher, but considering his place in the novel and like the sort of allegories he's in for, I thought I'd probably want to avoid that. I was thinking maybe he'd be the animal sidekick, but then it's too many characters for Dracula, and same reason as before. Yeah. I think Lupin's design probably changed the least. I feel like Mina might be a bit unrecognizable from her original counterpart. Sherlock's only really got the hat. He's not very inspired by other versions of him. I mean, he's a bit, but he just looks like, to me, just like someone I'd see. Like, people I know, basically. He just looks more inspired by, yeah. I think, Lupin and Mina would be quite close. And I think Lucy would be one of the few people who would get through to, Sherlock and his, big ego.